Hello, my name is Francis Fox. I'm a trained remote viewer, also trained in interspecies communications for the ability to be able to speak to beings that are from off planet. I learned this when I was a child. Um, I always spoke to animals, but if my memory serves me correctly, I spent some time in northern India with a tribe, and I've said it here before, uh, who said that they were from off planet. It's not the first tribe that has told me that. They live on top of a mountain and they communicate freely. And I do not remember the training in terms of how they trained me or augmented my skills to be able to speak to beings from off planet. But that was the purpose for the visit, and I believe it was accomplished. So when I say that I'm a galactic shaman, it's probably an exaggeration. I know about the basic laws of planet Earth and what it is that you should work with so that you can be as healthy as possible and as happy as possible. And then if you have a business, make the money that you want to make. And when it comes to the galaxy, there's also rules. But a lot of those rules we already know. And it has to do with our religions and the people that they have beings that they've allowed us to believe in and to worship. As I said the other day, in the Catholic religion, you're allowed to believe in angels. Well, obviously angels are not human beings. They're not. They're from someplace else, but we're allowed to believe in them, that particular group of people. And then of course we have the people who were born into a physical vehicle, physical body, but what's poured into them that has to do with consciousness is angelic. So there's just an awful lot going on. But anyway, so these are some of the skills that I bring to the table, and the reason that I chose to be born into whatever I was born into and with whatever experiences I chose, not consciously once I woke up to being a human being on planet Earth, but prior. And it all had to do with being able to deliver this extra information that people don't have because we have not spent enough times on our multidimensionality. That being said, I want to say that I am so pleased that Kennedy is now our new Secretary of Health. I will pronto uh, get to him or get together with him, having to do with starting to work on the root cause of disease, which is never in the physical body, ever in the physical body. Even if you get run over by a car, that event was set up prior in the other dimensions. So if you work in the other dimensions, and some medicines do, and they call it alternative medicine, which is really an insult, being it that one of them is 5,000 years old, and modern medicine is only like 600 years old and been known to be pretty awful. So if we start to work on causal in terms of medicine, it's going to get very efficient. It's also a lot more fun. It's also a little bit embarrassing in the sense that if you get a particular disease, and I'm going to go with my favorite, which is cancer, which I am a candidate for. So any criticism that I'm giving about cancer and the people who get cancer is directed to me too, okay? Get a sense of humor. If somebody has cancer, everybody in the future is going to know that something really made them angry 24 to 27 months before their doctor diagnosed cancer. But this that made them angry, they weren't able to do anything about. They just had to accept it. But not, and generally, what caused the cancer has to do with somebody that we love or that we have a relationship. Cancer is a disease of repressed rage and impotence. And if somebody from the other side of town comes and kills you, rapes you, tortures you, or does that to your kid, you're probably not going to get cancer, even though you're in a rage and you're impotent. You can't do anything. The guy ran away. They can't find him, the guy that did it. But if your brother-in-law did it and there was a heart connection, that puts it closer to being able to cause cancer. There's other factors, and one of them is astrological. I did not do enough cases to where I knew the astrological sign of the person that had cancer, but from what little I did, there seems to be a connection between that event that gave you cancer, that your reaction was rage and repress, and then it's in your body, you push it down, you're fine, like I'm fine. Um, but it has something to do with the characteristics of your sign, such as the first person that I studied where I was in shock at the information. She was a Leo, and Leos are very proud. They like to do things right. They want for people to look at them and to at least think that they did things right. And if they can also admire them because they did it so well, that will make a Leo happy. So anything that humiliates a Leo, that's a big problem. And this particular person got cancer because of a public humiliation. So there's a connection there. But guess what? The father of modern medicine said you cannot call yourself a good doctor unless you're also a good astrologer. Every astrological sign comes with information on where your weaknesses are because you are of that sign. My case, cancer. Weaknesses are, I believe, the breasts and digestion. Yuck. I can tell you about the digestion. Don't have any breast issues. Can tell you about the digestion. And anybody who's cancer can tell you about that. Elon Musk is cancer. The United States as a country is cancer, which takes me to the next thing I wanted to say. Kennedy, please, please work on the wheat. 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 In the Bible, I think they say it's the staff of life. Staff seems to be something that's like anchoring and centers you in like a backbone. Well, these companies got hold of wheat and decided to make it better. You're going to make that better than God? And listen, I'm not religious. You're going to make that better than God? I don't think so. And what they did was they modified it to make it what? Resistant to insects. If you speak to a person who's an indigenous or is a naturally inclined person, and you start to give them this storyline, wheat, the staff of life, we're going to make it better. But before we make it better, why don't we put something in it to where when an insect eats it, they die? Oh, but it's not going to affect the human. And I always tell people when they have these stories that they repeat, and I go, listen, if you came home from school when you were a kid and told your mother that story, she'd slap you around and send you to bed and say, did you really think I was going to believe that? Why is it that we believe these people? Okay, but let's get back to wheat and my petition. Wheat is my favorite product. Wheat, donuts, cake, crackers, cookies, wheat. It's a lot of people's favorite bread. Bread, bread, bread. Oh my God, bread. Oh, but I cannot have bread because after 3 days, I look 10 years older. And when I get off of wheat, after several days, I look 10 years younger. Why? And then they say, but we took out the gluten. We put in this stuff. Who the heck knows what else we did? We took out the gluten so you can eat gluten free. When you modified the wheat, did you just modify the gluten or did you modify the wheat? You modified the wheat. If that does that to me, what does it do to babies? Well, we already know what it does to babies. 30-40% depression. Heart is 10 years ago, the heart of our kids, their function was 15% less than their parents. And it was the first time in the history that we know, because we're so important, it's the history that we've documented. It's the first time that kids are less healthy than their parents. That's just the weight, but it's the most important thing. So, Kennedy, can we have that at the top of your list? Because I know that this public is going to adore you if you can give us back wheat. Can it be that difficult? Did you know, most of you probably know this, you can't just buy the seeds for like wheat and other products. You have to buy them from certain people. What? And those people have modified them. So, like in Colombia several years ago, Colombia didn't want to buy modified seeds for, I think it was wheat, but I'm not sure. They didn't want it. They wanted natural. They wanted to use their own seeds. They wanted natural. There was so much blackmail done with Colombia that they ended up having to buy seeds that they knew were poison. It's so bad that if that field over there has genetically modified whatever and yours doesn't, but then the wind comes and some of their seeds come over here, you got a problem. What the heck is this? Who had all that time to do that? For us, we never asked for them to touch the wheat. Why did they touch the wheat? Listen, for those of you that believe that they actually touched it to make it better for us, I got a bridge I want to sell you. Okay? You're the problem. We actually have believed people, and the stories that they have given us have not made any sense. Why did we believe them? Now we're into the hard part. Now we're into collecting back our power, okay? And then we have people saying, well, you're getting really rough and tough. What is this? You know, you're a bully, Trump doing this. We actually were probably not bullied. We turned ourselves over to people who didn't make sense. Okay? I'm going to tell a story here, but maybe it doesn't have anything to do with it. A lot of times when I used to take care of children, that I would see them, the parents would bring them in. I don't see people in person anymore. A lot of times I'd look at the kid and I'd say, do you get stomach aches? And the kid will say, no, no, I don't. I go, okay. And then I go, but do you get stomach aches every day or just sometimes? Meanwhile, the mother is staring the kid down. And the kid says, no, not every day. I don't get stomach aches every day. And the mother, of course, jettisons herself out of the comfortable sofa that she's sitting on, going at the throat of the kid, saying, you didn't tell me that. Well, I can guarantee you that if the kid told her that, all hell breaks loose. And probably the kid is accused of not wanting to go to school or of not having had their breakfast. By the way, if you have a bad liver, which wheat gives you, breakfast is not, doesn't feel good. You really don't want to have food in the morning. It's like not good. So we have a significant proportion of our children that always have stomach aches. Oh no, it's not always, Francis. You're right. Most of the time they have stomach aches. So Kennedy, I'm really happy. I mean, I think you're in, right? You're in, I think. We put that at the top of your list because if you can give this country back bread that's actually bread, oh my God, we will be, probably a couple generations of us will be eternally grateful. Next, gossip. Schiff will not let me go. Schiff is, I was going to say, on a path of self-destruction. If he keeps bothering me, he's on a path of self-destruction. He is a wreck. He is frightened out of his mind, but he's still working diligently on me. I have to assume he's working on other people also. What does he want from me? Has something to do with my head. Therefore, it has something to do with programming. Therefore, we have to ask, why does he know anything about mind control programming? Why does he know anything about mind control programming? Somebody in the government told him yesterday, you need to disappear. I guess he was petitioning or talking to this person about whatever his issues, and the person said, you just need to disappear. I don't know what's going to happen with him, but I do wish he would get out of my hallway, the back seat in my car. He's always following me. His spirit, guys. His spirit. You know how some people, their father dies, and the person say, my father's always around. And they say it quietly because they're not sure you're going to believe it. That happens all the time. The trick is you have a spirit before you die, and Ship has a spirit that apparently is really savvy. And it looks like he knows a lot about mind control. And I don't think I'm going to be able to sue him for making me crazy with this, because he's not making me crazy. He is making me nervous. Because I think that by the time we get along to the point to where I'm going to be able to turn around and sue everybody that's done everything to me, half of which, or 80% of which work for the US government, CIA, FBI, NASA, whatever, I think he'll be gone. I think he will not, because he has that white in the top of his eyes. And that indicates a tendency towards tragic death. And he probably will have a tragic death, where it's an accident or somebody murders him, whatever. But I wish that he would be gone. Can I sue somebody once they're dead? He, I would suspect he has a huge bank account. Can I go after his bank account? For those of you that don't know me, even though I have complained bitterly of the government never paying me for my services, I'm not really very hung up with money. But I'm going to ask it again. If he dies, can I sue his estate? If he stays alive, can I sue him for, what do you call it? Stalking me. He's stalking me. Adam Schiff is stalking me. Literally, no question. My bedroom, my hall, my car. But he doesn't want to talk to me, even though he did try the first time. He wants something that I have inside of me. And it's, at this point, it's not sex as a vehicle to get off planet. So, can I sue somebody whose spirit, which is their astral body, which when they say, may the force be with you, they're talking about your spirit. Can I sue somebody whose spirit is stalking me? I think it's already in the courts when people try to unalive somebody through black magic. It is in Europe. There's some sports guy that won a case, some athlete who's another athlete on the same team did something to them, went to court, and he won. I don't know how they proved that, but it certainly would be a good thing. But can we go after the spirit of a person who's alive? It would be funny. Adam Schiff getting something from the courts. Frances Fox is taking you to court for stalking. Well, I don't even know where she lives. Um, your spirit is stalking her physical body. How's she going to prove that? Well, I could probably get 50 or 100 people that could say that they see it because they're good psychics. But how are they going to do that? Got to get this figured out. And you see, it's not going to be really that complicated in the future because people are going to believe in karma. When you believe in karma, you don't have to have lawsuits. Things take care of themselves. They may take 30 years to take care of themselves, but they take care of themselves, and in ways that are just perfect. So this whole thing of not believing in karma is very expensive, because when we help people like in other countries, I have said for years very quietly to only a couple of people, the whole thing with the Peace Corps and all of those companies, those here we go with the tissue. Spirits don't like me saying this stuff. Like the Peace Corps, all of those community, let's help the communities in Africa. I said they're all a front for the intelligence community. I've said it to like maybe two people, and lately I've said it a couple more times. That is what they're fighting about in Congress now. Elon Musk, one of my favorite persons in the galaxy, not just on planet Earth, he's one of my favorite people in the galaxy, um, is finding that our aid, that US aid agency, let's help this country with this and this country with that. It's all a game to launder money. So they're talking about laundering money. I'm talking about getting the intelligence community in this country, which is totally sick. Got it? No question. They're sick. There's a culture of mental illness and sexual perversion in the intelligence community in the United States. And that's so easy to prove. So, what they're screaming about with Elon Musk is basically the same thing I said from a different angle, but it's the same thing. Pretending to be good people. We're helping these people. And then the American public has been so asleep, so asleep, so asleep. They believe these stories. We're so good. We help the whole world. And I've been wanting to correct that for decades. No, you don't help the whole world. You use the illusion of help as a front to get into other countries to do whatever the hell you want. We maybe are not going to have to in this country go through the stage of shame about everything we've done to other countries because we are so busy getting this corrected under Trump. Like, okay, we'll talk later. Get it corrected now. Elon, just get it corrected. Look at all these people that they think he's like going to take over our money system. Somebody said he doesn't know anything about money. He was one of the people that set up PayPal. I would trust him more with the chances of him trying to take money from somebody doesn't resonate. But the congressional people apparently have been perfecting that in the name of being good people. This whole thing of being good people doesn't really work. So I'm going to say a story here, and it may look like it has the connection to nothing else that I'm saying. The gladiators in Roman times, when they would throw them into the Colosseum, and this is what life is like on planet Earth. This is definitely what life is like in the mind control program for the victims. The gladiators loved each other. They created tremendous bonds. And when they were pitted against each other in the Colosseum, they would try to kill their opponent that they loved like a brother because they knew that that was easier than continuing to live the life that they lived. Are you getting that? Those gladiators would kill their opponent that they loved and struggle to stay alive to be able to kill their opponent because they were doing their opponent a favor by releasing them from the horror of the life that they lived. Life on planet Earth is not what we have been taught. Something very different. At some point, somebody needs to tell me if I have permission to do a map of Washington, D.C. and sketch it and reveal the sketches, because I can do whatever the heck I want. But I'm here to help, to share information. There's something going on. Okay, so let me just say it. There's something going on in Washington, D.C. having to do with placement of devices in square configurations, like a square with 3 buildings within that square, and then electronic devices that maybe could detonate on each corner. And then there's another square over here, and the square is, of course, like a drawing on a map. And then the 4 electronic devices, and some of them overlap, some of them don't. This is some god-awful person group's plan in case Trump continues to win. In case he already won the election, we're talking about winning the war. In case Trump continues to win, something like really god awful needs to happen to shift everything. So this is probably one of 50 plans, but it's since before the chat started, I kept thinking, you know what? I want to sketch Washington, D.C., but I have people that live in Washington, D.C. that I love, and I'm not talking about Trump. So, and then I set it here, and then this extra information comes out. So, for what it's worth, I am a little bit shaken with the issue of Palestine and it being taken over and made into a luxury tourist attraction. So I just want to say a couple of things in case it might help. The original largest portal on planet Earth was over Jerusalem, is over Jerusalem. Its center is 10 blocks north of downtown Jerusalem. 10 blocks north. Okay. 10 blocks north of the old downtown of San Francisco was where the internet was. And something about being 10 blocks north of a center of something that seems to be important. That portal allows galactic energy into the planet. So, in the places where that portal is, you have incredible power, but then the intention determines how it's used. So, in the Mideast, that portal has given us, I think it's the three biggest religions, tremendous spiritual power, and then, of course, the wars and everybody, they used to contend that this planet was going to end in a world war that was going to be initiated in Jerusalem. Somebody is telling me I need to clean the camera for this chat. I don't need to clean the camera. This is done on purpose so that people go, oh, the image is terrible. And then they click off. So I cannot clean the camera because that's not the issue. So Jerusalem is a problem, and everything has an energy. If you're going to put something in like hotels and gambling and things like that, that would mean that the addictions will augment dramatically because it's a place of power. My thought is that if this is such a place where you can choose the dark or the light, maybe the light is not hotels. Maybe the light is places for spiritual pilgrimages, which is not fancy schmancy hotels. Maybe it would be important to know what it is that would be supported by this tremendous power that would be positive for everybody. Whether who it belongs to is not really the issue in my head. I would like to note that when the issue started in the Mideast with that music festival and then they murdered all these people, I have a piece of information, but I'm not sure that it's not premature for me to give it out, so we're going to skip it. But we're going to skip it. Okay? And we're going to go into something that should make us all very happy, which is the map of the United States today. Yesterday's map was good. By the way, Mexico looks great. 2 days ago, it looked awful. This is grounding, and this is blue, which is communication. And this is the United States yesterday, which was good. Nice. The pyramids are growing again. Great grounding. We're getting grounded. Blue is communication, truth. It's getting grounded. We definitely in Revelations in the United States. This is today. This is the Merkaba. That is the vehicle for galactic travel. You have this, we all have this vehicles, and some of us it's not operational because we're too tired. Okay, so when you have this over the United States, and we've seen it over Venezuela and then over Mexico, the Mexico one was not this big. And I'm not sure the Venezuela one was this big either, but it doesn't matter. And it's purple, which is crown chakra, faith, sacred, whatever. Then it has this orange stuff on the ends. Not sure what it is, but it's to stabilize. This is a vehicle for galactic travel. It is a spaceship. You have a spaceship. It's part of your assemblage of bodies. Let me show you. Okay? Here we go. You have one of these. There you go, all the way at the right. These are all your bodies. All the way to the left is your physical. These are all sheaths of consciousness, envelopes of consciousness that you use to function on the different dimensions. So this is a sheath of consciousness, but it's a spaceship, the same way your Merkaba is a chariot from the Great White Brotherhood, and it is protecting and stabilizing the United States. But this is extra stability. And then you have the grounding of truth, root chakra grounding. The pyramids in the Gulf of Mexico do not seem to be irritated at Trump. I'm a little bit irritated at him for changing the name. I don't know, did he change it already? Can you do that? They don't seem to be bothered at all because they're growing. So this is all stabilized. And then you have Florida, which has Trump and Elon, and it's the part of the United States that has to do with helpful friends. And so look at, which means that our country is going to find it easier, and we are finding it easier to be a friend of people that could be our enemy, such as Mexico. Trump and this woman from Mexico are going to have a love affair. I'm not talking sexual. They understand each other, but Trump has the benefit because he and Elon have become so close. They've created an energy of helpful friends, watching each other's back, helping each other out, being on the same page, which facilitated the relationship that we have and are going to have with Mexico. Isn't that sweet? So the map looks great. And at the top, the words that I got were, and the truth shall set you free. Correcting things that were lies. And the meek shall inherit the earth means that an awful lot of us that have been on the bottom of the pile having to do with power, Adam Schiff is stalking me. He's not getting something that he wants from me. I suspect that at some point he must have had some power over me. I don't remember ever meeting him. I never heard of him being associated with mind control programs, but he knows a little bit too much. This is a little bit fishy. This is very fishy. This has got to be looked into. Because you see, why not say it? If he does know about mind control, oh God. Okay, so we go ahead and say it. If he doesn't know about mind control, he knows about black magic. So then he knows how to do to Congress what was done to me, which is a lot of black magic, curses, spells, whatever, that were done for people to think I was a bad person, to think that I was working as a sex worker, to think, what were the other stuff? I don't know, a whole series of things, doctored photographs, all these things to totally trash, and they did it, my reputation. I think even my family was hammered on to believe that I was one sick woman. So, and most of it was done through black magic, which works. So if he was involved with the mind control, then he is involved in black magic, then he would know how to put to sleep the whole Congress, or at least part of Congress that are not very solid in their centeredness and their beingness, or who ate a lot of food that basically weakened their mind. By the way, when they did the studies on marijuana, cannabis, they discovered a system called the cannabinoid receptors. The cannabinoid receptors is what I discovered in 92, but they also discovered the cannabinoid receptors in 92. But I discovered the whole system, which is in the shape of the tree of life, and the branches are what science discovered, and they call the cannabinoid receptors. They are what receive the cannabis into the human system that relaxes them, makes them sleep better, works on cancer. The reason why cannabis had an entire PR campaign done on that herb that's considered a sacred herb for 5,000 years on the planet was because it relaxes the mind. It's harder for you to mind control somebody who uses cannabis. You don't have to smoke it. You can take the pills, the little gummies for sleeping at night. Why are you modifying it if God made it that way? Why are you taking out the THC? Take less of it. Come on. Why are you modifying? Who the heck do you think you are to modify something that God made and for 5,000 years was sacred? Who do you think you are? A scientist? I think that everybody in this country forgot the definition of the word science. It's to observe and draw conclusions. It doesn't include an Ivy League degree. I have a university degree, by the way, in a wonderful science called political science. Okay. I mean, how did we get here? How did we get here to where we feel dumb looking at the things that we're doing, that we're saying, that we're repeating? The thing with food, for a couple of decades when I was raising my kids, I wouldn't go to Europe. I didn't like travel, or maybe I wasn't allowed to travel out of the country. Our couple friends that we had would go to, they would go on vacation to Europe, and they started to observe through the years that when they went to Europe, they could eat anything they wanted. They could eat everything, and they could eat bread. And they always mentioned the bread. They could eat bread, and they didn't put on any weight. They lost weight because they did all the walking, and they'd come right back to the United States, and all of a sudden, they know they don't want to walk anymore, and they put on weight, eating less food, and the bread was not as good. It's not just the bread, but the food has definitely been part of our dumbing down of America. So, Kennedy, you have your work cut out for you. And I know that maybe you thought that you should have had a different position, but maybe you have the most important position of them all. Okay? Because we are really limping on the physical dimension with our physical body. Okay. I really do want to revisit this with whoever the specialist would be, having to do with making people pay a consequence for when they are savvy enough to use black magic, that they pay a consequence in what is the system in the world today, in this country, which is the legal system. And I think it's happening already, but not enough people know about it. Um, Oh, the other piece of gossip. Things must be really bad at the intelligence community because in the last 2 nights I've been hit with psychotronic weapons, microwave, and something else that was like a sound, and I think it came from the apartment next door. There's some weird stuff going on there. People don't know. They don't know. Somebody probably said to somebody here in this neighborhood, we got to take care of this thing because we got to fight communism. And what? What? I think that if you stop putting names on things and simply describe, and I'm not the original person with this concept. Somebody said if you don't name something, all of a sudden you kind of understand, what's going on, and then you can kind of know what you need to do. So I think we should probably never use the word communist again. And I think we're going to have some people just sitting there trying to explain to you why we should do something rather than raising the flag of communism. I'm not a communist. I'm not looking for communism, but I notice that the bad guys that are savvy, they use that flag a lot, and then everybody has to shut down because if you are not against communism, well, then you obviously are working with the devil. I mean, it's just so obvious. Huh? What? No. So maybe if we put away the word communist, we would do better. Anyway, speaking of communism, really talking about Miami, I think that I have been dealing with me and my Montrista movement. We have been dealing with harassment with psychotronic weapons for the last 5 years. That was what my control used on my group and on me. And there are different ones. Last night, the night before, it was kind of heat related. You start to feel like you're burning on the inside and only certain parts of your body. They actually have a map of the body and whatever. But last night it was sound. I have my mantrista music on all night long because it's a protection and it's correcting the other dimensions, the frequencies, the Wi-Fi. So I always sleep with it all night long. And I put my amethyst talisman on my eyes so I can get my healings, whatever. And I was thinking, what happened to the music, to the frequencies? There was something else going on. So they must be frightened enough, because I know that because of all of my screaming, the Cuban political mafia finally stopped using them. And as I said to you the other day, those weapons are now in the hands of santeros, the black magicians, that religion, Santeria, where they sacrifice animals, and it's actually legal in California. It's part of the religious beliefs. They have santeros, particularly the ones related to Venezuela, that have those machines. They're not that expensive. So I think that something big is happening in Miami, that my enemies are using it again. They must keep me under control, keep my mind messed up, keep me confused, keep me ungrounded, because for 2 nights they've been using those weapons. I was able to identify where one came from, which was a Santero. The other one, I think, is coming from here, from where it is that I'm living, very close by. And again, I'm sure the person was sold a bill of goods that I am obviously evil incarnate, and if it's people like me are the ones that ensure that the world is going to be taken over by communists. Oh my God, not good. Okay, I need to go back to Jerusalem. I know this is a little bit long, but this is an important story. I was having dinner with the least powerful person at the dinner table was me. I was having dinner with some powerful people from Venezuela and Colombia. And as usual, my mind is working even when I'm trying to be social and trying to be pleasant. And all of a sudden I said, the Bogotazo in Colombia, and I know I've said this story before, but there's an awful lot of new people. The Bogotazo in Colombia was a result of what was going on in Jerusalem. There's a connection there. And then everybody looked at me and they respected me for what I actually worked for them. And one of the women at the table was a representative from Colombia for the peace talks with the guerrilla groups within Colombia. And very savvy, very, very savvy, intuitive. And she said, it's interesting because when I was there and I was part of the supervision of the peace talks, we noted a connection between the peace talks in Colombia and what was going on in the battling it out in Jerusalem. If one of the peace talks broke down, the other one did too, without having any connection to each other on the physical dimension. So I told a friend of mine that night after dinner, and I said, we should look that up, except I knew I wasn't going to look it up. That's not supposed to be my job. I'm supposed to give the information and somebody's supposed to take it and figure the whole scenario. And so I continued with the same protocol. This was my friend. She calls me back 3 months later. She was busy. She's a doctor. Busy. She said, I got the connection. I went, okay. The Bogotazo was what I was referring to, which was a historical event in Colombia in it would have been 48, I think it was. She said, and it was violence just took over Colombia. Colombia did not have a history of violence. All of a sudden, from one day to the next, violence took over Colombia. And she said, 6 weeks before the Bogotazo, um, Israel was made a country. So, and I think I said it at the dinner table, but I don't remember right now. And I'm saying it because it's happening again. So, Israel was made a country. Lots of unhappy people, not able to do anything. The powers that be decided to give Israel a state. So there was repressed rage. And it could have, the information I have from the Dolphins, it could have started the Third World War. But Colombia, spiritually, without knowing on a conscious level, took over the excess violence. It got channeled to Colombia, and it worked its way through in Colombia with the historic event called El Bogotazo. Somebody said Fidel Castro was present in the city that time. He had nothing to do with it. And I don't know that that's true. It was just an interesting. So you had the Bogotazo. They took off the extra rage that could have triggered a third world war. That's so sweet. And Colombia didn't know that. And the whole world thought Colombians were animals. Oh my God, look at this. This is horrible. They had never been violent before. And all of a sudden they went into this years of horror. So I guess it was a couple of years ago with the Mantrista movement, we saw, it was when the stuff started in the Mideast, that it was Ecuador. Oh no, that's not where it starts. But anyway, Ecuador is what's now taking on the extra violence, the potential violence in the Mideast so that there's not a third world war. How did that start? I actually worked for a family from Ecuador. And one day I said, listen, I think that your country in the future is going to do what the Colombians did with the Bogotazo. You're going to take on the extra violence the next time there's a big happening in the Mideast. And they just looked at me, okay. I mean, it didn't make there was nothing to connect it to at that point. That happens a lot with psychic information. You just have it and you just sit it there. You don't throw it away. You just sit it there. And then it started. When we as a group went to try to help Ecuador to process that energy of violence, it was unbelievable. And we were told, you can't help. In other words, we were trying to maybe prevent a Bogotazo in Ecuador, that maybe if we helped funnel that energy off into the ocean of violence, but we were told we wouldn't be able to do it. It was too much. We wouldn't be able to protect Ecuador. This is something Ecuador decided to do spiritually in the other dimensions. Isn't that neat? Isn't that sweet? And isn't that a good reason why Jesus would have basically taught us don't judge? So you look at Ecuador and you go, God, what a mess, that society. You look at Colombia, look at what they did. Colombians, the Bogotazo, look at them, animals. What we don't know is very detrimental to peace. We don't know. Okay. That's it. I've talked for 50 minutes. But I suspect I didn't talk a lot yesterday, and I suspect I didn't give chats over the weekend because I suspect somebody put a muzzle on me. We're getting close to being actually free. I thought that the president said that within 15 days they were supposed to have the files on the Kennedy assassination, which I'm looking at as a moment in which my bad guys will simply have bigger things to deal with than the fact that they sex trafficked me. But I don't see any movement on that. Now, I would suspect that I was the president. I wouldn't release those files unless I was totally in control of the intelligence community. And they're not totally in control yet because they still have that darn FBI guy who I like so much. They don't have him confirmed. And I suspect that they're fighting tooth and nail not to confirm him, because once Trump has all those organizations kind of under his control, no, there's not going to be places to hide, but in the other dimensions, which you need to look at. By the way, our space program was started by the intelligence community. Put that in your pipe and smoke. What does that mean? Not sure what all of the implications are, but definitely if you start with that, just look at who started the space program. We started it because the Sputnik thing, the Russians did it, we got to do it. It was a lot more than that. So I think we're going to let it go and we're not going to do a mantra today. But I think I'm going to put something up on the screen. You see Jesus Christ with that crown of thorns? Now, why would that crown of thorns have been put on him? What was he trying to tell us? Third eye. That darn third eye on the dollar bill. Third eye is wisdom. Third eye is the all-seeing eye. Science already said our forehead has cells that are eye cells. So Jesus Christ was sending us a message that we have been blocked and we better not touch. The authorities are saying you better not touch your third eye. They don't want us to know all of this stuff. What is this stuff? Apparently, I don't know what all the stuff is, but I do know that when you have all the stuff, you get wise, you get an understanding. Such as me understanding, which my sister said first, and I denied it, that everything that I went through, I chose. And I said, I'm not that dumb. And then I have now an understanding that yes, I chose a difficult path, as did a lot of you, but there was a reason for it. And the reason is working through. So, Jesus Christ, third eye, crown of thorn, the eye on the dollar bill. So I think we have to work diligently on prosperity because we're in a shift of cycles, 5,000-year cycle. And we have gone from hierarchical form of power, triangle, a couple of big guys at the tops, few more here, and then the rest of us are at the bottom working for the guy at the top. That finished. That's not supported. Now power is in the shape of a circle, community. I think that Trump is doing that. And you know something? It's so interesting. The people that are being given their positions as head of whatever departments, they all have joy on their face, except the guy that does the immigration stuff, whose face used to be so red, I thought he was going to have a stroke. But it's not so red anymore. He's not so frustrated anymore. But he had too much fire, too much anger. I guess he's feeling more powerful now that he's actually make things happen. But there's a lot of young people there that are kind of smiling as they're saying things that are the truth. Dang it. And the truth shall set you free, which is on the sketch for the United States. So I end with that because I guess I could talk forever today to make up for the talking I wasn't allowed to do over the weekend. And the truth, so set you free. We're going to be real good friends with Mexico. That's a good thing because Mexico has a lot of Mayan wisdom. Bye. Thank you for joining me.